next guest is on a mission to empower women to take control of their own finances. In her new book, What's Up with Women and Money? How to do all the financial stuff you've been avoiding. So here to give her tips on how women can better invest in their futures, please welcome journalist and my friend, Alison Kosik.
Thanks, Sunny.
Now, congratulations on the new book.
Thank you.
I read the book. I loved it. I reached out to you. I've given it to my daughter. It is exactly, in my opinion, the financial guide women need, all women need. Now, in it, something that I didn't know that you share is that it was your divorce that prompted you to write this book.
I was CNN's financial correspondent, reporting from the New York Stock Exchange for 15 years or more.
We worked together.
Yes, we did. And in my own life, I wasn't managing my own financial life. I let my husband do everything financial, and that wound up being one of the biggest mistakes of my life, because when the marriage went bad, because I let him do all the financial stuff, I felt stuck. I had 2 kids under the age of 10 years old.
Yeah.
What if I made a mistake? What if I lost all of our money? And then I realized, you know what? After I wrote this book, I realized there is this disconnect with financial literacy, that we can really thrive at our day jobs, we can thrive in our jobs, but we don't see that translate into our, our financial lives and into growing the money that we're earning.
Now, what's interesting is your story is not an anomaly, because you write, half of married women let their male partners take the lead in making long-term financial decisions. Now, why do you think that is? And how do you finally get the just confidence to just take control of your own finances?
Yeah, so there are a few reasons why women may, rely on their husbands or just avoid the financial stuff altogether. For one, we lead busy lives. Who wants to go home and just roll up our sleeves and take out the old good financial literacy books after we've been working our butts off all day and taking care of the kids? So we're overwhelmed. I mean, the other part of it is, we have ways that we grew up with, watching our parents, how they handled money. We internalize that. And then there's the cultural conditioning component that oftentimes, whether we want to admit it or not, girls and boys are often raised differently, and girls who are raised to avoid money can become women who avoid money, who don't become involved in their financial lives.
Now, for the book, you interviewed successful women like Jessica Alba. You interviewed Barbara Corcoran, who's a friend of the show, fashion designer Rebecca Minkoff, among others. What was one common thread you found in their stories? I
think the one common thread was they were inspired by encouraging themselves to be more involved in their financial lives. Take Jessica Alba, for instance. She talked about imposter syndrome and how she felt incredibly exposed and vulnerable when she felt like that. But she said the way out of that was to just act as if, behave as if you already have that thing. And so have that kind of mindset was really important. I found that common thread throughout all those celebrities that I interviewed.
And let's get to some of the practical tips, because you share so many good ones, starting with budgeting. Now, you liken it to shoes.
Yes.
Explain the 3 budget shoe styles, because this really spoke to me.
Okay, so just so you know, I liken them to shoes because budgeting can be boring. It can also be a drag, because who wants to limit how much we have to spend? So why not make it fun? So budgeting is like a roadmap, but before we go out on our road trip, we have to really take a look at all of our finances and see how much money is going out versus coming in. And once you make that analysis, then you have to choose a budget that really sticks to your personality. And so I call it your shoe personality, because you want it to be something that's sustainable and that you just don't kind of throw away after 3 months. And so one of them is the 3-inch heel, the other is the sneaker, and the final one is the flip-flop. And they all
I enjoy a heel.
Yeah, but you know what? The heel budget is the one that really takes a little breaking into, because just like shoes, a lot of times we buy our shoes and we're like, you know what? I'm going to break them in a little bit. I know that they hurt a little bit, but over time you kind of work them in, and just like a budget, you get used to it. And that's why I made that analogy.
I loved it. Now, a shocking statistic that you write about is that of the 43% of Americans who say they live paycheck to paycheck, get this, 85% are women. 85%. Living paycheck to paycheck, I've done it, can feel so suffocating. And the idea, for me at least, of even investing or saving, it just felt impossible. But you say it's not. So how can women make these small changes to go from paycheck to paycheck to being more financially sound?
So I just want to first acknowledge that living paycheck to paycheck is so stressful. You said you've gone through it, I've gone through it,
yeah.
and there is the challenges that women have, that we have the gender pay gap, and for women of color, the disparity is even wider. So with that said, there are things that you can do. For one, track your spending. Going back to that budgeting thing, it really is the baseline to everything you need to do. Track what you're spending and how much money is coming in. And you can see where you can cut some of that spending and use it to, let's say, invest or go toward paying down debt. Another thing you can do when you get paid, to go ahead and automate, automate your income. And it really helps to delineate, when you get that money, how much money goes to bills, how much goes to your wants and needs, and how much goes to your future self.
And just have it taken out of your check right away.
Yeah,
That way you don't miss it. That's what I do.
Yes, and sometimes you have to take drastic measures. In my case, when I was living paycheck to paycheck, I had to actually get up and move because I was living in the city. I was out of money. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to take a job out of state. And so if you're able to take a drastic step, I would say take that.
Take that. Now, when it comes to negotiating our salaries, women are more likely to be shut down and they're more likely to make less money then. So you have these 4 hot tips for asking for more money at work. And I know that's really difficult for people to do, but they must do it. So what are those tips?
Okay, so you want to prepare. You don't just want to wing it. How do you prepare? Know how the company is doing, first of all. Do a lot of research about the company. Also, try to do as much research as you can with the person that you're meeting with. Find out their interests. Make it so it winds up being a conversation. And understand what the job salary ranges are as well, so you're not asking for something that's way out of line. Also, the day of your interview, my suggestion is Google the company. You may be surprised there could be news of that day that you have to take into perspective when you walk into that office for that interview. I know with me, I had a job interview once and they had layoffs that morning, so I had to actually know that before I walked in the office to start negotiating. Also have a brag book when you're doing your job. You forget, like, who remembers what they had for dinner last night or the two nights ago? I don't. So if you have an achievement, if you win awards, if you get an email from somebody saying you did great on this and this, put it in an organized fashion. There are apps that keep this kind of stuff for you, and it's called a brag book. And really, one last thing I can suggest is that when you are walking in for a negotiation, and let's say you're asking for an extra $10,000, when I say prepare, say the number out loud before you walk in, because sometimes when you say it, you want to say it with conviction, and that you've earned it, and you're.
I want an extra $10,000.
Me too, Sunny.
Our thanks to Alison Kosik. For more tips on everything from buying a home to investing to why every woman needs an estate plan, check out her new fantastic book, What's Up with Women and Money, by scanning the QR code on the screen. And members of our studio audience are going home with a copy. Have a great day.